Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a good week so far. We're nearly at the weekend, so just hang in there. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about Squid Game. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably watched Netflix's show Squid Game. It is #1 in over 40 countries. It's still trending. It's in the top 10 in Netflix. Everyone's talking about it. So, like, you'd have to be literally, like, living under a rock if you've not watched this or you've not heard about it or seen anything about it. So I'm just going to get stuck in now. I was a bit hesitant about watching this because I'm not really one for liking like gory shows and films that are full of like bloods and guts, and it's just not my thing. Like, I'm more into like suspense and thrillers and things that get your mind and like, like jump scares and stuff, but I'm not a huge gore fan. So I was under the impression that this film was going to be just full of gore and blood, like the kind of like the way Saw is, the Saw films. I thought it was going to be like along the lines of that or a similar kind of genre, but it actually wasn't. I was pleasantly surprised. I was hooked for the first episode, and I watched the full series in 2 nights. Like, I couldn't stop watching. I was like glued to my television. I wanted to see what happened next. I wanted to see what the next game was. I wanted to see, who was going to win and who was going to die. Like, as gruesome as that sounds, who was going to die. But I was just so, like, I was just hooked for the first episode. I think another thing that kind of put me off watching it was because it was in Korean. I was like, am I really going to get into this if they're talking a completely different language? The culture is completely different. Am I going to get this? But, surprisingly, I did, and it was an amazing show. And I must say, I really enjoyed it. So for today's video, I think what I'm going to do is, for today, we're going to rate all the games in Squid Game, but we're going to do them from like most tense. Like, well, this is my personal opinion. The ones that I thought were like very like tense and suspenseful, and the ones that I thought weren't, if that makes sense. Like, I'm just going to rate them, because honestly, like, and if you haven't watched Squid Game, then I would suggest you do. It's just so good. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat now, just patiently waiting for a second series. Like, I'm buzzing. I can't wait. So we'll get stuck in. So obviously, like, I've got my wee notepad here because, like, to remember the order of the games, so don't get mixed up. So and genuinely, like, I think if I was in Squid Games, I genuinely think I'd do alright. I really do. There's some of the games I'd be like, nah, I wouldn't do that. Like, I'd fail, like, really badly. Well, who am I kidding? Like, I'd be knocked out at the first one, at red light, green light. I'd be dead. I'd get killed. Genuinely. So the first game, obviously, they play is red light, green light. Oh, and obviously in Squid Game, like, all the games are based off like childhood games. So it's like kind of taking something. Oh, there's my door. 2 seconds. Trips, bear with me. Hi, sorry, I'm back. So obviously it's taken like, that's just my friend in the back. So obviously, I forgot what I was saying. So obviously it's taken like a childhood game, and it's like putting a twist on it and a spin on it and making it something very dark, very grim, very gory. It's just kind of like spinning it on its head. So honestly, I was intrigued. Like, for the first episode, I was like, more and more, and now I'm like dying to see the second season. Like, I can't wait. So the first game was red light, green light. And like, this is where obviously they go into this big room, and it kind of looks like it looks like they're outside, but they're not. So it's like, you can like see the sky, but like there's like walls around them. It kind of looks like a prison. And obviously through that show, Squid Game, like, it is kind of like a prison setting, the way they've got like the numbers and the jumpsuits and stuff. It is very like, it's like being in prison. So in this game, it's like they've got this big, like, tall, bloody, larger than life doll, that'll say green light, red light, and then like she spins her head, and it's kind of like there's a, well, I think over here in Britain we play like a similar one. I think probably what we would call ours would be like, what's the time, Mr. Wolf? So it's like you walk forward and the wolf turns around and you have to stop, and whoever moves is out. So it's kind of along the lines of that, but obviously in this TV show whoever moves gets shot, you know, and dies a very bloody death. So the first one, I thought it was a great concept. I thought it was you're shocked, like when they start shooting people, you're actually in shock. You're like, oh my god, what's happening? And it's in this like first game that the players start to realise, oh shit, what is happening? What have we got ourselves in for? Oh my god. And that is when the ball drops, the penny drops, and they realise. So it's this game, obviously. So I think this was the least suspenseful. Don't get me wrong, it's you're under pressure, you're under stress, you know, and it was a gruesome one. Like they're all getting shot, and you know like these people are just shooting everybody and like taking everybody out. But I think there's other games that were more suspenseful and more stressful and more high pressure. I don't think this was like one that was like one of the more high pressured ones. I really don't. So I'm just going to give that on a scale of 1 to 5 on how suspenseful and stressful it was. I'm going to give it a 4, because I don't think, out of all the ones that's there, I don't think it was like that. You know, I don't think you were under pressure that much and had to use your mind that much. And I think I would pass this round. I think I'd do fine. I think I'd do great. I think I'd like kill the competition, literally. I think I'd do okay. So yeah, I think I'd pass this one. That's a tick for me. So, but how creepy though is that big fucking doll? Like, how creepy is she? Like, can you imagine? It's just so scary, like, girl. And obviously, if anybody else noticed, like, we clues and anything throughout the show, please comment below, because supposedly there's so many, like, Easter eggs and, like, hints at the show, throughout the show, towards the next season. So if I've been trying to look out for that now, but if anybody else notices it, like, comment below. So the second game that they play, oh my god, 2 seconds, is they play Dolla Candy. I hope I've said that right. So in this one, like, they have to, like, so they've all to pick a shape. And once they pick their shape, they're given like some sort of, it's like candy. It's like, it looks like honeycomb that's like put in a like boiled just pure honeycomb sugar, and whatever shape they picked that was on the wall, they then have to try and like cut that shape out of the wee silver pan they have without breaking it or snapping it or anything like that, like without the actual sugar, like the shape itself crumbling. This one I found was really tense, really suspenseful. Like, the sweat was actually dripping off my forehead watching it, and you're just like sitting on the edge of your seat gritting your teeth like, oh come on. And they've got this wee pin, and it's like they're trying to like draw around the shape, and oh my god, it's just so tense, and like you can see the focus on their faces and the sweat dripping off them. And one by one, like, even if you break it by that, like, you're dead, you're shot. And one by one, you see them all being shot and all their things breaking, and it's so tense and so suspenseful. And, oh, that I was literally, I had, like, anxiety, watching that. I was like, oh, come on. It was so tense, and it gave me pure anxiety, to be quite honest. But that one, I'm going to give that a 2 on the meter of how suspenseful it was, because that was some scary shit. So that is a 2, because I don't think I'd be able to do that. Like, I don't have the concentration, like, never mind like the like skill in the eye to like cut around this wee thing. And like, obviously in the show it's hinted at like whoever picked the umbrella picked the worst shape, because think what you had, like the way you have to cut that, you have to like go round the brolly and then down and then up, do you know what I mean? So that would be really complicated to like cut that out. Obviously if you get given like the triangle or like a circle. That would be an easier one because you're just like round and you're done, or like down, down. Do you know what I mean? But the triangle's quite hard. So yeah, that is definitely a 2. So the next game that they play is Tug of War. I thought that one was quite tense as well. Because you're having to think of, like, obviously you're working as a team and you're working with people, but you're also having to like work as part of a group and work as part of a team and work together to win. And at first you don't think that Suhan, like the main character, you don't think his team's going to win because you're like, oh, like they're not the strongest team, because like everybody paired off, like, so it was like a bunch of men went together and like nobody wanted the females because it was like, you know, females are weak or whatever, so people were just going with like the physicalities, whereas the main character, the protagonist, his team used their mind and went with, well, if we move in a certain way, we use certain skills, you know, we hold our bodies a certain way, we put our weight a certain way, then we can win this, like, then, you know, so, but at first you're thinking that there's no way, like, their team looks weak AF, like, there's no way they're going to, that they're going to win. You're just totally, like, but obviously in the end they do, and what a gruesome scene that was as well, like they all just fall to their death, and there's like a scene where like the camera like pans to somebody's body and like their heads burst open and their brains are everywhere, and it's just, it's horrible. And I, as I said, I'm not one for liking gory films, like it's just not my thing, like I like more thriller, suspense, like things that get you using your head and guessing, and but this I really did enjoy because it is mostly a thriller. Yeah, it does have some gore and stuff, but it's not like, it's just very quick. It's not like I watched a film a couple of weeks ago, Wrong Turn. I don't know if any of you saw that, and oh my god, it was so gory. It was like every second of the film, it's like somebody's head's getting bashed in and blood everywhere, and it looks really realistic. It's like it has you turning. I suppose that's what they kind of films are about, and that's like the point of them. Like you've got people sitting in the cinema like, oh, like that's, you know, but it's just not for me. But Tug of War, yeah, definitely that was very suspenseful as well, so I'd give that like a 3. And I don't know if I'd have got to that point yet. I'd probably be dead. I'd have probably been killed at like the candy, but like the candy one, like I would not be doing that. I'd be long gone. Just being honest. So there's another one I want to talk about. Obviously it's not a game, but to me this was like one of the best scenes, especially filming wise, and how they used the lighting. See the jail, like not the jail scene, see the scene when they're all back in the bunkers, and like at night time they all, like as soon as the lights go out, they all start fighting and killing and stabbing, and it's like you see the flashing lights, like the flash of like the lights on, then it's off, and you can just see blood and gore, and that I thought that was really intense, and I thought that was a really good scene, like the way they filmed it, and the kind of idea of like how they were all willing to kill themselves, like kill each other for this money, like, you know, the power of money, it's crazy. Money is unbelievable. But that wasn't an official game, but I thought I'd include that anyway because it was like, because they did take each other out, like half of the players get killed during that scene, so I'm going to count it, even though it's officially not technically classed as one of the games. But that was like a 3 as well. That was intense. So the next game they played is Glass Stones. Now this was fucking, excuse my language, this game was like really intense, like, but you think like, and you see at the start they've all to pick a number, and people are like running for number 1, number 2, like running for the start numbers, not really realising, and obviously the main character, he goes for the last number, and when they get to the game, it's like some of the glass stepping stones are like solid glass and they can cross over, and then some of the glass is like sugar glass, like fake glass, so as soon as you put any pressure on it, it just falls right through. So obviously the person to go first, they're like the guinea pig, like everyone's watching them to say, okay, whatever ones they stand on, we'll stand on whatever one they obviously stand on that doesn't work. We know not to stand in that one. So it the person who's first and then going down the way in that order, the last person benefits from everybody else's work, because they've seen the mistakes that everybody else has made and they're able to then do the opposite. So that one's kind of backwards. I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but so you see them going one by one, and it's like as each player goes and each player gets a little bit further than the last player, and then that person gets a little bit further than that one, and it's just like they just all start taking each other out of the game because they'll start pushing each other and people are refusing to move, and it's just, you know, that was so intense. And obviously the scene as well, like they're all just falling to their death as well, and like people are lying at the bottom, like their faces burst out. It was so gruesome, and it's intense as well because like you're having to see, okay, what bit of glass looks like the real glass, what doesn't. You're watching what like other people are doing, and so that's another game where you're really using your mind. So I'd definitely give that a 2 when it comes to like suspense and, you know, scariness and having to use your head. And obviously there's like a guy that makes it, and he's like, I think it says that the guy worked in glass, that used to make glass, and he manages to cross over and get so far because he can tell the difference between the sugar glass and the actual real glass. But then the elite, the people that are watching this, like the guy in the mask's obviously creepy, they realise that, and the guy dims the lights, and then the guy can no longer tell the difference, so he obviously dies, and the other 3 they pass over. But yeah, that was intense, so that's a 2. And obviously the last game that they play is the mother of all games. They play Squid Game, obviously what the show's named after, and that one's basically just like a battle of like strength and wit and will and how strong you can be, and at different points during that game, the protagonist and the antagonist are both at, one's winning and the other's losing, then the other's losing and one's winning. So, you know, that's kind of tense. You're kind of on the edge of your seat as well, like who's going to win here, like oh my god, and you're kind of looking at the two of them like, okay, who's going to pull this out the bag here. Obviously, you know, like the main character, the guy that we've seen from the start and we've followed from the start, obviously clearly he wins, like, but it's still very intense. But I wouldn't say that's a game where you're kind of using your mind and you're having to like use your logic and kind of think a lot, because it's kind of like strength. You're kind of battling it out with who's stronger. But it kind of makes me think, like, say it was like a man and a woman that had got to that point, how is that fair? Like, obviously the guy's going to be like stronger, so he's going to be able to push her out the circle. So how would that game have been fair? Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Not really fair, is it? But yeah, so I would definitely give that like a 4. Like, that wasn't like the scariest, it wasn't the most suspenseful. But all in all, it's a great TV show, and I can't wait for season 2. And there's obviously a lot of conspiracy plots as well. Like, some people think the old guy who turned out to be, I won't spoil it for anybody who's not watched that. But you know, the conspiracy theories, there's a lot of them surrounding this TV show. So yeah, anyways, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you haven't watched Squid Game, I suggest you watch it. You will not regret it. It's on Netflix. You'll see it straight away. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your week. I hope everyone has a good weekend. Stay gorgeous.